Hey guys, what is up? So in the comments of my last video, I had been talking about trying to find somebody who fishes to work on a video with me. And I got a lot of feedback from folks that they thought, well, maybe that might not be that entertaining. Watching two people sort of circle strafing one another for 20 minutes wouldn't make for the best video. And in some respects, I agree with that. And so this problem had been bothering me, and I was thinking about it. And while I was thinking about it last week, Entry Invalid was doing a dried finger run, and I was trying to snipe him. And during the time, he had a helper with him, and that helper happened to be IBARBO. And IBARBO was fat rolling. So I thought, well, he's a really good player, but he's fat rolling. So this would probably be a great time for me to test out my sort of beginner fishing skills. And you can probably guess about how well it went for me. And I'm actually gonna put some of my personal shame and embarrassment on video for you here so that you can see. Now that's Entry with the halberd and with the ridiculous night setup. That's IBARBO, who again is fat rolling. And I'm sure if you've ever tried to fight while you're fat rolling, you know what a huge handicap it is, but it's not really slowing him down at all. And he does a few interesting things. The backstab there was really cheeky. Then he gets me with the Estes punish. And at this point, I'm just like, I really just can't believe what's actually happening. So I think at some point here, I decide to break out the big guns and bust out the rapier. Well, I'll just kind of let you see what happens here. That is so dirty. So dirty. Parrying backstabs is just kind of next level, and it's actually one of the things I'm going to talk more about here in the video upcoming. But as IBARBO was sort of administering this beatdown, it really made me realize, like, hey, there really could be a fun video here. I could really teach people some things, and I sure as shit could learn some things myself too. So IBARBO was kind enough to set aside some time where we could have some sorts of duels and screw around, and so here's the result of what we did. So when two people have these sorts of fishing duels, when two people who are fishing do this, it's usually a mix of rustic play and fishing. If you purely fish, it gets a little too predictable. But if you purely play rustic, in all probability, the player who plays purely rustically is going to win, simply because we're both good enough to see the fish attempts coming and avoid most of them. It's not to say that we wouldn't ever give up our back, but it wouldn't happen enough to counteract the huge advantage that you would have from playing rustically. And in fact, this is a point we'll talk more about, because it goes to the whole reason why you might want to play in this sort of style. We played with healing. We talked about challenging each other's heals, because when you challenge heals, I think it opens up another dimension. It makes it more like an invasion, which again we'll cover later. And you can see there, IBARBO again, the legend, parrying my attempt at a backstab. In that case, and in the earlier one, I didn't even have a grab, but you'll see he actually does it when I get grabs too. Namf abused me like that. Just grab after grab, he would turn around and parry it. And actually, IBARBO does a great job. He actually explained to me a bit about how he does it, and we'll see that upcoming here in a little bit. So I also want to kind of draw attention to something that makes him such a threat. Watch this, the swap there to the shield. Luckily, I missed my attack because I was unlocked, but look how he baits me and perfectly predicts my action. If I had been targeting him, he would have gotten that for sure. And if he can do those sorts of things to me, I mean, imagine what he's going to do to just your garden variety PvEers. And there, again, parries my backstab. That time it was an actual grab, and we were actually joking about it. We partied up, and actually we had a really fun time. And unfortunately, because it was just us talking, and it was included in the video. I had to mute all of this or it would very quickly get annoying to listen to. But you can see I got some stabs too, and as time went by, I started doing better and better and kind of figuring out his baits and learning to read him a bit better. Things started to go better for me. And, playing a player of his caliber, when I play the top tier duelist, you can't help but get better and learn from these guys. And with those roll backstabs there, you have to be really careful with those, because a good player will actually be able to reverse that if your timing is poor. So obviously I've had some videos about duels, and now I'm having some about fishing, and I just want to talk for a moment about why these different skill sets matter, and why obviously you would use some in certain situations. This type of playstyle really doesn't have a place in dueling, which isn't to say obviously that you can't land backstabs in duels. You can, but generally speaking, the reward isn't worth the risk. That there's still a place for it, but it's much more reduced, obviously. Invasions in a duel, you're fighting one player who's usually pretty skilled. In an invasion, you're fighting a group of players that typically aren't as skilled. You're outnumbered. They have a ton of Estus, so you're trying to do large amounts of burst damage. You're going to lose a lot of invasions. They're very risky. So it makes a lot of sense to engage in higher risk, higher reward. If you land a backstab with the Hornet Ring or you land a parry, you can either kill the host or kill a phantom, and that's a much more efficient way of dealing with them rather than chipping away at them, a hit at a time. Now, sometimes that's your only option, but that's the whole reason that you would go for a playstyle like this. And of course, fishing is kind of its own reward. It can be fun to play in this way, even if it isn't in some sense totally optimal. It's both a preference issue, but then I think there's also a case to be made simply for the efficiency of the approach. So for the next few clips, what I want to do is I want to show off some very specific interactions that we had, and some tech and some things we did, and maybe break it down in a little bit more detail. So right here, I want to show what IBARBO did to me here in slow motion. He immediately knows I'm going for the backstab. He reads me coming from a mile away and is able to spin out of my backstab and run around and backstab me. That's obviously kind of dangerous, and we're actually going to see some clips where I'll show you just how dangerous that can actually be. And here, this is me trying to bait out an R1 from him, and I space it and backstab him, and because I spaced it as well as I did and I timed it, it's literally inescapable. As soon as he presses R1, he's stuck. He sees me coming, but there's absolutely nothing that he can do about it. See here, I'm watching, I'm waiting, and as soon as I see the animation start, I'm charging at him, run to his back. He sees what I'm doing and is trying to get away, but there is literally no way to escape from a situation like that. So here, he was trying to show me how he actually does the parry of the backstab attempt, and as you can see there, he actually got caught in the grab. I think we tried a couple more times here, and I screwed that one up. I get it again, and again, he's trying to actually bait the backstab so that he can parry the whiff. And here he comes pretty close. So he's got to give me enough of his back, and then there he finally gets it. He's got to give me enough of his back, but not too much, which again, obviously is a pretty dangerous sort of proposition. And it actually reminded me of an invasion that I had a couple weeks ago. This is with Rusty Greatsword. He's a really great player, certainly better than I am, and a really good fish. And there was a situation that happened that I thought was really interesting. So he's really good with that cestus, using it one-handed and punching with it. And there I panic, roll around, and so now he knows I want to heal. He's right on my back. He knows I want to heal. He knows I know it. He's going to pressure me and try to force a mistake. So I really only see that I've got one option, and I run for the pivot, and I end up getting the rapier backstab. But watch what actually happened here. I'm going to show it to you in slow motion. Rusty sees the backstab coming, and he tries to maneuver around me so that he can actually punish my whiff with a backstab of his own. But because it's a rapier, it has like that late second grab, and I'm able to actually punish him and grab the backstab. And that's why that sort of tech is so dangerous. Okay, so for these next few clips, what I wanted to do was put some sections where Barbo and I were each kind of split screen here so that you could see things from both our perspectives. I actually find this really, really useful because it's helpful to see what the other person was seeing, especially for backstabs. It sometimes can look a little wonky or why one person got priority over the other. And I had a little bit of fun putting this together, although trying to get the timing to line up and accounting for the latency between us was definitely pretty challenging to do. I think if I were to do this in the future, I'd probably go for like a longer format rather than trying to do excerpts. But anyway, I thought this was just kind of cool, and maybe some of you will find some value in it and take a look at it. A huge thank you to Barbo for providing me with the footage here. This is really fun to do. I had a lot of fun dueling with him. I've got tons and tons of unused footage. If anyone's interested, I can share it, let me know. For the last couple clips here, I wanted to talk more about how I kind of integrate my dueling and my invasion knowledge and how I kind of approach situations. And I thought maybe for the first one to show how I blew would be sort of interesting. So appearances can usually tell you an awful lot. This guy's got a great sword one-handed, which typically isn't as great as two-handing it. And he's got the small leather shield. And nobody uses a small leather shield unless they want to go for parries. And because this is low level, I'm really extra wary of parries. And because of the parry frames with the small leather shield, it's even scarier because they can just throw them out at random and get lucky because there's so many frames on this thing. That was actually kind of smart to go to the dark hand and hit me with the turn and burn. I really wasn't expecting that. I'm really just, again, trying to gauge this guy's willingness to parry here. I always wonder kind of, and that's such an obvious bait, but I always wonder if my approach is really kind of optimal and smart with the kick. Like he's doing some smart things to try to keep me from pressuring him. But see, parries like that make me think this guy's just going to throw him out anywhere. And I almost thought he was going to parry my backstab there on accident. I would have been so pissed if that had happened. So this last clip, obviously the host is having a fight club, and I decide I want to fight this Aldrich over here. And I see that he's got the Hollow Slayer two-handed, but he ends up switching to one-handed mode as soon as the fight starts. And usually people switch to a shield either because you're pressuring them too much or they want to parry. And obviously because the fight hadn't even started, I'm anticipating that he's going to want to try to parry me. But because he's pursuing me aggressively, I'm able to go for a pivot. And here he should be revising his game plan. He should be thinking, hey, this guy pulled a move I wasn't expecting. I need to be more wary and mix things up. But nope, he goes for a very telegraphed parry, which I read from a mile away. And here I think he finally comes to his senses and starts two-handing the Hollow Slayer, which is a much more difficult proposition for me. The hyper armor starts up so early with that thing. It's so tough to whiff punish, especially if there's some latency and the rapier's not really long enough. So I decide I'm going to go ahead and go over to the four-prong plow. He's still aggressively pursuing me, so I'm still thinking about a backstab. And here I block because I know I'm going to be at his back, but I end up grabbing the false grab box. Here I decide I'm going to back off on the critical attempts. Silly Dog actually has a YouTube channel, and he just uploaded a commentary, which is really, really cool, and I hope he does more. And he has a really interesting observation about the importance of mixing up critical attacks and mixing up rustic gameplay. And I'll put a link to that in the description and the comments of the video. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks again to Barbo. Take care, everyone.